As a farmer, one of the most important things you need to do every winter is check your grain bins. Now, that's not rocket science. That's not anything you haven't heard before. You need to level the bin off. You need to check the grain bin. But we're going to talk in a little more detail about how you manage the moisture in there, how you manage the bugs that could potentially get in there, and those types of things today.
Well, we certainly want to manage the temperature and the moisture in our grain bins. And I'll say this, Brian, you say, oh, it's not rocket science. As a farmer, you're always looking for what's the next job that I got to get done. And hey, you know what? The ground hasn't frozen up yet. I'm still trying to apply some manure. I'm still trying to get some fertilizer out there. I'm still trying to do some tillage. And we forget, you know what? All our money is sitting there in a grain bin. If that goes bad, we're going to lose a lot. And we have to keep an eye on that at least once a week. And if anything at all is kind of questionable, we need to be out there even more often looking at those grain bins.
Yeah, but there's another way to manage this thing, and it's with technology and data. So for example, on our own farm here, just a little over a year ago, we put on some systems from AgriDry so we can get daily reports. I can get emails, I can get alerts, I can get texts. So if something is out of line, moisture-wise or temperature-wise, then I'm going to know about it right away. And also, the nice thing here is it can automatically turn the fan on based on what the outside air temperature is and the outside humidity. So we as farmers have known for years that, boy, I can either dry grain down or I can add moisture to it if I was to control my bin fans correctly based on temperature and moisture. There are some simple charts out there. They've been available for 50 years, but to shut those on and off at just the right times, we've tried to do that before manually. It's impossible. You just can't be there. Well, you could be there if literally that was the only thing you were going to do.
Give up your whole day. That's
right.
That's what it's going to be. You're going to give up your whole day every day because all of a sudden, hey, the temperature's right. I can cool things down, and then boom, here comes the humidity. And you say, oh no, now I got 80% humidity. That's not good. I can't pump moisture into my bin, so you got to shut things down. You got to find that perfect balance for temperature and humidity to make everything work out just right.
Right, but here's the way I look at it on our own farm. Okay, let's say that I could harvest my soybeans at 15% instead of 13%. Ooh, that means I get to start a couple days earlier. That also means that if I get that moisture just right in the grain bin so I can sell it at 13% as opposed to 11 or 10 or 8%, I just made more money because in effect, I'm selling moisture to the elevator. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're trying to do anything illegal and add a garden hose to the grain, but by controlling the bin fans and knowing the outside temperature and humidity, we actually can put more moisture back in, or the way I like to phrase it to guys is you'll have better seed quality and get more bushels and have less loss at the combine if you just harvest it a little bit wetter and take a little moisture out. So it's one of the things that we want you to be considering on your own farm. The other thing is when we talk about corn, we used to dry all of our corn down to 12% moisture, seriously, because we knew that most of it we were going to store into the next summer. Well, now I don't have to do that. I can dry down to 15 or 16%, and I can let the fans do the rest of the work, or at least keep the temperature right, keep that moisture right. And I also know that, hey, I've got alerts, I got sensors in there, so if anything's starting to go out of condition, then I can get it addressed right away.
One thing I want to point out too as we get going, because a lot of this stuff, we just kind of assume that everybody knows this and that about grain bins. I mean, really, think about this. Where's your owner's manual, and when's the last time you read that? I was talking to a farmer, now this has probably been 3 or 4 years ago, and he said, oh man, I got to get some grain into the elevator today. I don't have time to do XYZ with me. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, what's your situation? He goes, well, I went up to check on that grain bin, and I opened the door and I'm staring my face right into a bunch of grain. We forgot to take the top off that bin. We overfilled it trying to get harvest done. And I know that this has happened to just about anybody that's ever farmed and has a grain bin, that you do that and then you forget about some of those things later on, that, oh yeah, I was going to do this or that. So getting that grain bin down to a normal level so your vents can all work and your fans can work properly is so important. Leveling off that top, as Brian talked about right off the bat today, really helps allowing that moisture to move the way it's supposed to. If you've got a peak in there, that's where the moisture is going to move to, and you're going to see some spoilage.
The other thing is bugs. Okay, if you've got a bad bug problem, well, there are products you can use, but unfortunately almost all of them are super dangerous. We're just not real big on those. Look for safe alternatives if you can. Get the grain hauled out. You know, a lot of times you can avoid these issues if you just clean out the grain bin 100%, sweep it down, spray malathion in there, get it all prepared before you ever put grain in it. So yeah, if you ended up with some bugs, get rid of it, get the problem taken care of for this time, and in the future, just make sure that bin is better cleaned out and use insecticide always before you fill a bin.
But keeping those grain bins in shape is very, very important to your profitability. So is weed control. Can you identify this week's weed of the week?